Hello everyone, welcome to Your World of Mine. Show me yours and I'll show you mine. And today we have beautiful Mlisska here, and she's a quite interesting lady, which you will soon discover for yourself. Now, Mlisska, a huge big welcome from our planet where I come from. And I'd rather not mention which one because people might just get jealous because Elon is trying to get to some planets and the likes, and we want to be friends with people like that. So
sounds amazing.
Wonderful to have you with us today, Mlisska. So the first thing that I'm curious as an alien, what is your world like these days? Because to me, I get all these different versions of reality, which is wonderful, because I think humans are one of the species that has so much versatility. There's not just one thing that everybody fits into. So what is your world like?
Sure. So my world today is an incredibly vibrant, interesting world full of curiosities and just incredibly fabulous people. My world is, I would say, my energy and my time is consumed with people. I find them to be my greatest delight. And so I love to travel, but I love to travel because travel takes me to more people. So, yeah, my world is people.
It's very interesting that you say that because a little birdie told me that we share the same birthday. And hence, when you speak about travel, it's no news to me that you love people and travel.
Very much.
The first question that arises when you share about your words about people, obviously my heart warms immediately and my legs start tingling, is for me it's very good news that there are people who really care deeply about people on this beautiful planet, especially at this moment in time. But when you say your words about people, I don't know about you, but I easily absorb other people's energy. So I have to be constantly aware of what I'm taking in, what's mine, what's not mine. So how do you navigate that?
Sure. So this is something that I feel like I got wrong, although I'm always very hesitant to use the words wrong and right. Bear that in mind when I say this. But this is something that I had to go through a very steep learning curve about myself. And it has been a very painful for myself and for other people, steep learning curve, because obviously when you're learning something, usually it's very messy and you don't know yet. You're still trying to figure out what your answer is in this scenario. And so it took me many, many years to learn about that fascinating little paradigm called boundaries. It's still something I'm learning. And to learn about placing a value on my needs in order to place a right value on other people's needs. That took a long time. And Hannelie, it's messy. It's messy business. Nobody stays in the same place. So we grow and change, and everyone around us grows and changes. And I find myself having to constantly re-navigate so many of these concepts that, you just start to feel like you got your thumb on it, and then it's gone, and you're learning again. So as much as the learning curve has been steep and that kind of thing, I think also I have had to learn and continue to learn to be gentle with myself in learning. I think if I cannot extend a gentle kindness to myself in my learnings, there's no way I can offer that to other people. And I like to live my life thinking that actually all of us are doing the best we can with what we know and what we have. And if I can start with that premise, suddenly people aren't actually out to get me, and they aren't actually out to attack me and to make my life miserable. We're all actually just trying to do the best we can with what we know at that point. And that applies to ourselves as well, which is why I think it also becomes easier to look back and not have regrets, because at that point, that's what you knew, and you did what you did with the knowledge you had. So that was a very long and convoluted answer to your question.
No, you're sharing so much beauty. There's beauty in what you share, because I think that's the one thing that comes up first that I would like to explore with you is when you talk about boundaries. It directly points to self-love first, as you explained, and to be kind to ourselves first. But in the world that we live in today, there's just so much going on. And we are just bombarded with all this stuff. And then working with people is quite interesting because of all the stuff going on. But I specifically want to explore the part for younger people. For people, we don't, on my planet, we refer to those who came more recently.
I like that.
And the ones like us who's been here for a longer time. And when you share about self-love, I don't think it's a thing that came when we came into this earth. It was not a high priority.
Right.
There's always other people's needs first and then your own.
Right.
But for what's happening now is the paradigm is all shifting because of suddenly we have all this knowledge. And like you say, our parents, we could still blame them because they didn't have all the knowledge that we have today. And even if we are parents, our children can blame us because now you have all this knowledge, but you didn't have it when you were younger. So it's this very interesting interplay with generations as well, across generations. And then to come to boundaries, for me, goes back to belief systems about what you believe to allow people into your space and what not. And also like you, I don't like to use the words right and wrong or good and bad or appropriate, non-appropriate even. It's more what is aligned with me, my total self. And to be able to, if you think of the past, people were looking outwards for validation. And I think the tides are turning. It's now we're looking inward. And we're starting to use other parts of ourselves, sensibilities that we have inside of ourselves, to sense into what's really good for me in this moment and what's not. Do I firstly take care of myself? Because we also come from a time, if I look at the last 3 decades, if you just go back to the Second World War, we had to rebuild the world as human beings. And then things started changing. And then we started in the 60s, babies like myself, we start born then, we're more starting to look at the human itself again, not just the world we're building up. And the caring part, the loving part, the free love of the 60s, for example. But it brought us back to ourselves, which I find fascinating where we are at this moment in the 21st century, when we look at boundaries, because it's so important for our younger ones, the ones who came more recently, to know how to set healthy boundaries. I think that's really important because to navigate all that's going on is not easy, and to have that peer pressure on the one side and on the other side, that urge to belong and to be seen and heard wherever you are. I think this takes us to a very different place from when we were younger and when our parents were younger.
Right.
So I'm fascinated. You are doing very interesting things in your life. So tell me a little bit more about your passions, because I somehow see there's a link to what we just discussed about self-care and boundaries as one of the things.
Yes.
So what are your aspirations for this beautiful world, considering what's all happening right now?
Hannelie, these are huge questions.
But get into them, and we're not looking for answers. You know, in my world, on my planet, the one thing we also discovered in a long way, like you shared earlier, in your own experience, is that we are so focused on looking for solutions and
Yes.
answers that they
Yes.
elude us because they're right in front
Yes.
of us. Instead of
Yes.
just sensing into what's really happening and what's busy emerging, because
Right.
we can't really pinpoint it yet necessarily. But
Right.
in terms of the aspiration for me, if I look at the word aspire,
Yes.
aspire comes from, if you look at aspire, it's from a religious point of view. It was the churches and the cathedrals had these points. And
Yes.
the aspire has a link to that word, to those points. So it was a point of reverence
Yes.
for life.
Yes.
And the aspiration part is different for me than having an ambition. It comes from a
Right.
different place. Ambition is a personal thing that I need to accomplish in this life or that I'm
Correct.
driven
Correct.
to. Whereas the aspiration for me is more collective. What's my aspiration for humanity, for this beautiful world of ourselves? But coming back to ourselves again, because we're part of it. We are it. We're not separate from it.
Yeah, totally. Totally. You know, you remind me very much of this one quote that I love so much. I'm just actually trying to find it quickly to share with you. Do you mind if I share it with you?
Yeah, of course. No, you're welcome. Anything goes here.
It's by a man called Rainer Maria Rilke. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. And he wrote a very small book, a thin little volume called Letters to a Young Poet. And he was actually writing to a young friend of his, just trying to give him some advice and help him. And there's this one quote that I love, so much. He says, "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers, which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer." I love that so much. Oh, I
Well,
just love it so much.
oh, what a response.
Oh, I refer back to that quote so much in my life. You know, I was a young girl who became a young woman who felt full to the brim and overflowing with questions. And questions are quite a threatening thing for a lot of people who, for whatever reason, multiple reasons, just don't like not having an answer to give, a pat answer straight away that they can just, keep you quiet with an answer. And when I stumbled upon that quote for the first time, it was such an incredible time in my life because I had also started this shift where I had begun to make friends with mystery. And I believe that mystery is such a very necessary part of life. I think, let's not make this about other people. Let me just talk about myself. I want to live a life that I've created a lot of room for mystery in my life. I don't need to know in order to do. And once I realized that, it was the first time that I gave myself permission to actually start my little venture, which is She Gathers, because I realized I didn't need to know what it was going to be or what it was going to look like or even what it was going to do. I just could start it and I could let it become. So a lot of the time, I feel like I'm watching it become along with everybody else watching it become because I don't actually know what it's going to do. And I'm so okay with that. I'm so okay with not having a 5-year business plan and all of that kind of a thing. it sometimes feels, I don't know, grandiose to call it a business, when that's totally not what I feel like I'm building. I, in the simplest way, feel like I'm trying to build a place where women can build suspension bridges between each other. And again, what they look like and what they become is less important to me than being able to offer this space. Yeah. You're sending me on some long walkabouts in the forest, yeah.
But that's the mystery. That's the, we speak the same language. That's the mystery. Because it's, and I think it's very important and wise for us to begin to look at new vocabulary. Because like you say, when you even say, and I come out of the consulting business world, so if you use the word business plans, my whole body throws up. It's like no go. Because it's so much history, it's so much the past. And it's not easy for, there's two things that I want to connect now from what you shared earlier about the questioning, the curiosity, and the mystery. Because when you allow, but you have to trust life then. That it will just unfold in whatever way. And I have a dear friend who has created the phrase serendipity management instead of business, which is very different because there's no plans, there's no goals, no 5-year plans, doing that. But in terms of your questioning, if you just think about it, there's infinite questions that's hanging around everywhere in the universe, whatever you like to refer to it. But now I want to pinpoint it to one thing to say, this is it, this is the answer. But I personally, in my experience, believe it comes from our conditioning at a very young age already to have to provide questions and answers to a question. And then that answer was validated by somebody else's point of view or their limited experience of life through their own filters. So I think it's that deep conditioning that there's just only one answer to every question. So it didn't open us up to independent thinking, to be curious, to ask why. We were not conditioned that way. So, but I see there's a switch. If I look at the ones who came more recently, there's something else going on because of all this technology and mobile technology and the internet and everything that just blown everything open. So suddenly you realize this is not the only book anymore that's valid to tell you what's right and wrong. There's all these possibilities. And I then have to use other parts of myself to sense in for me if that's preferable for me in this moment and valid for me, because it might not be relevant for me in this moment.
Right.
So there's a relevancy thing coming up as well. But I'm now really curious because you mentioned she gathers. Now, just sensing into, and from our parents, we're quite sensory beings, and sensing into it, there's a sense of cells coming together in my body, literally. I can feel it in my cells, coming together. And you're speaking about a beautiful, very deep, feminine concept of gathering, bring together. We come out of a time which was more directed, the masculine, and going somewhere, achieving stuff. We're now gathering, it's a feminine principle of bringing together. And it's not only people, it's concepts as well. It's linking all sorts of different interesting things. So when you said she gathered, I was just focusing on what's happening in my body. It was very interesting when I felt it most. And it's quite interesting for me. I felt most interest in my calves. There's this going on. And I won't even now try to look for an answer for why is that, because it's impossible. It will come probably later. I'll make some associations. And it's very interesting that it was there concentrated there.
Mm.
And it's quite a powerful energy. So it's also grounding. It's a lot of grounding there into the earth. Here, present, now.
Yes.
So, and then suddenly it's in my, suddenly it's up here. It's all this energy going around, your mental energy as well. So tell us a little bit more about She Gathers.
So, She Gathers began because I am a life coach for men and women, but I would have one-on-one sessions with women specifically, and at the end of that session, every time I would come away and I would think, if I could just put you with the other woman that I'm coaching, and I could get you to talk to each other, you'd realize you're not as alone as you think you are. And I just had that thought so many times. And also in my life, I've always been the one to come up with every idea under the sun to just gather people. I just believe that something incredible happens when you sit across a table from another person and you stop and you look into another person's eyes and you talk. So I've done hundreds of very simple to wildly wacky things just to get that happening in my life. And then, you know, when I was coaching and stuff, and I thought if I could just put these women together, I kind of got to the point as well where I needed my very big idea to be just small enough. In other words, still big, but small enough that I could actually do something about it in my life. A lot of my ideas that I still carry, I feel like I need team to pull them off. And I love team, and I look forward to watching those unfold. But at the moment, I just needed something that I could do on my own. And so I started She Gathers, and to be honest, right in the beginning, She Gathers, I thought was just going to be an online space. I was going to do a Facebook page, and I was going to do a website, and it was just going to be a gathering space online. And after I had that going for a little bit, I kind of got to the point where I was like, well, who are you kidding? Because you're the one who's always said people need to get into a room together and sit around a table together. So you're going to now have to actually make this real life and real people. And so that's when I came up with the first She Speaks evening, which was, sure, I literally, you know, the things that you do in your ignorance and innocence. So I approached a friend of mine who is a financial wealth advisor, and she had written a book, and she has her own story of having been in extreme debt and walked her way out of that. And I approached her and I said, this is your story, and I'd love you to just tell people your story. Just tell, I'm going to just get a bunch of women together. I've got no idea who's going to come, but just share that, you know. And then I was like, well, you've got to feed people, because, you know, when people come together, they always need food, and food always helps just break the nonsense of, I don't know you, you don't know me, we're both strangers, you know, it just breaks past all of that. And I found a beautiful coffee shop that let me use their space, and they cooked the most delicious meal for us. And you know, starting anything requires a very particular kind of energy. And on the night when everyone arrived, I think I had about 22 or 24 ladies around there. when everyone arrived, I said, enjoy tonight because I'm never doing this again. Okay, this was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking. This is so much work, so many balls that I'm juggling. Enjoy it because this is it. And anyway, at the end of the night, when they all left saying, this can't be the last one. You just can't not ever do this again. You've got to do it again. And at the time, I just thought, fat chance. And but then it was as if this concept of storytellers started to come up in my life, and I just started to encounter women more and more who had walked through some kind of a fire and had been changed by it, and were far enough away from the fire that they were able to talk about it with a little bit of grace, a little sense of humor, compassion, and oh, I mean, I feel like that's been the privilege of my life, is meeting these women and being able to walk a little bit of that road with them, because they aren't professional speakers, so they're not on a speaking circuit with a talk that they just reproduce every time they're at another event. These are women who, a lot of the time, I would approach them and say, I really feel like you've got a phenomenal story, and their most common response is, I do. And then I kind of end up walking this road with them where I'm like, this is what I'm seeing and this is what I'm hearing. And then they go away, and then they think, and they let the fruit of those words start to bear, plant seeds and then bear fruit in them. And then we meet again, and they're like, oh, you said this and this and this, and I thought about this and this and this, and then I started to write this and this and this, and then I thought of this. And then, we chat again, and then we go away, and then she comes back to me a few weeks later, and she's like, oh my gosh, this and this and this happened, and I feel like it's this. So that's been amazing, an enormous privilege. And so I did go on and do that quite a few more times. I hosted 4 of them last year, and I hosted 4 this year. So yeah, they were amazing.
I had the privilege of attending 2 of them in this year. And the last one
I know.
was putting on a rocket to Mars. I know you
yes.
don't.
Yes.
Yes, I wouldn't even want to begin to explore that, because the one thing that really, for me, I should speak about it, that I want to people's attention to, is because you're mentioning something very, very interesting. Especially in this world where we have all these beautiful online platforms, and also we've never in the world ever seen so many physical platforms where we can actually talk and share our stories, ever, like before in history, because of just mobility and the way we live life these days, all connected, more interconnected than before. But you actually do mention something that I want to just lift up, which is when we tell our own stories of where we come from, and when we share wisdom, I call it about stuff. As an author, I can write many different things, but the thing that I love most to write is novels, which is a story. I can also just as well write about a topic. And it's not that I don't enjoy that creative impulse coming through and sharing that wisdom into the world. But for me, there's a big difference when you go and stand on the stage with no disrespect to those stages. And like you say, you're just repeating the same thing over and over again on different platforms.
Yeah.
That for me is completely different when you share from your deepest places within you.
Yeah.
Something that you usually wouldn't share with the world, but most of the world won't know about. They would
Yes.
see this individual, and especially with social media these days for our ones who came more recently, it's this projection of who you are,
Yes.
who you want to be at least, your
Yes.
aspirations of who you want to be. But when you start tapping into these deeper stories that we don't easily share publicly,
Yes.
for me, something I can immediately feel the shift happening then.
Yeah.
It's very different from when there's an audience you've been spoken to, like
Right.
on a topic, which is not,
Right.
it's wonderful as well. It's got its own
No, it's
place.
got its place.
It's got
Right.
its place. And somebody like myself, I've always also been involved in very interesting group things as well over the years. Also, I had my own learning curves and sometimes just smashed to the ground because
Yes.
not a lot of people like to go deep. They want to come in, it's still fun, and we don't go
Yes.
deep. We don't tell the truth and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
And then they just disappear because it just gets too much, which I
Yes.
also understand and have a lot of
Yes.
respect for.
Yes.
But I do feel, just from my own experience, I'm not saying it's the impossibility, but it is a possibility, that when we gather with other people, there are different things starts happening in the collective as well. It's not
Yes.
only the individual and the group, it goes
Yes.
beyond that. And in my
Correct.
experience, it depends on where we focus on. And all of those are good, they've got their places in the world. But it is from getting to our own stories and our own stuff first that we
Yes.
are able to tap into the collective. Because
Completely.
otherwise, it's so completely impossible to tap
Yes.
into the collective, to try to sense into the collective wisdom, what it's telling us.
Yes. I agree.
Because we're first a human being on this earth,
Yes.
and there are these, I would say, impulses of us needing to be seen and heard,
Yes.
to be recognized as a being in the world, firstly,
Yes.
and then to go out and play in the bigger parts.
Correct.
And I think what you are sharing about what you're doing then, me being a physical example, being there, so it's not that I'm speaking about something that I heard about,
Yes.
is that for me the most beautiful thing of it is, no matter what another person's story is about, it might sound like when somebody shares something, you think, hell girl, you have not seen anything yet.
Yeah, yes.
you
True.
haven't heard my story yet, that type of thing.
Exactly.
But the
Yes.
beauty is you don't even go there because
Right.
every story is sacred
Correct.
and
Correct.
it's precious and doesn't matter
Correct.
what it's about, it's for everybody who's there.
Exactly.
It's for everybody
Exactly.
who's there. No matter the context might be completely different or the level
Exactly.
of sharing might be on a different level, doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think that is when you say gather, for me what happens to my hands is like this. It comes,
Yes. Yes.
and that who is here is you.
Yes.
It,
Yes.
it rattles you, regardless of what the story is about.
Correct.
And a lot of us needs triggering.
Yes.
So we need
Yes.
to hear these stories, and not only
Yeah.
hear it, we need to receive it more over than hearing it.
Yes.
That, and I'm one of those people. I've done also very interesting things in my life where I really had to be shaken because I would always just want to see the good. So
Okay.
don't try to get me to see the bad. I won't. I refuse. I won't do it. But when something happens, which I co-create, my soul
Yes.
co-creates it,
Yes.
that you just rocked.
Yes.
And that's my
Yes.
physical experience with She Gathered.
I'm
That
so happy to hear that.
that takes you there because sometimes you just don't want to see these things, or you don't want to be
Yeah.
reminded of them, or you
Yeah.
don't want to deal with them. You most probably didn't integrate all that unintegrated material in your psyche, which you're not even
Yeah.
aware of because you're not even aware of it.
Yes.
So I really feel it's a beautiful platform, especially also for the ones who came more recently. And when I say the
Yes.
ones who came more recently, the ones in young adulthood. So,
Yes.
Mlisska, what age group? Is there a specific age group for She Gathers, or is it for women?
So I feel like it's for everybody. I feel like it's for all women. But it's been interesting because I've had a lot of people come who have preconceived ideas of the age group. And I've had all kinds of ages contact me and say, but I'm this age, can I come? So yeah, it's funny, you know, Hannelie, everything that you just shared about story and about being in the audience and finding yourself in the storyteller's story, even though it doesn't look anything like your own story. And the age group and all those things have all been things that I have kind of stumbled through learning as I've created this space. You know, you don't know what you know until somebody reflects something different back to you. And that's kind of been the case for me with She Gathers, because I'm like, when I say She Gathers and what I mean about She Gathers and what I mean to happen on our gatherings feels incredibly straightforward to me. And, you know, I don't want to say obvious anymore, but I mean, I think I started out thinking obvious, you know, and then I started to realize, well, actually, this is not obvious. I've really got to find language to explain this thing. And then I also realized that I can never stop explaining this thing. It's like finding language and then just finding more language and saying the same thing all the time, again and again, again and again, again and again. And that's what I feel like I do. I don't resent it. It's been such a learning, even for me, to stumble upon words. And, you know, I believe words are worlds. So I'll stumble onto a word and I'll be like, it's just opened up a whole new world for me to explore in the concept of She Gathers. So it's been beautiful. I do feel like it's for all women. And that's the other thing, you know, the storyteller who is speaking her story, she's the one who comes up with the title of that particular gathering, which is already giving the audience a heads up of the kind of thing that she wants to share about, which in itself will draw certain people. But I feel, you know, the more I do this, the more I feel there is something for us to learn in listening to every woman's story. And I keep saying woman because my work and the company that I've created is for women, but I actually feel that this is true for men and women. I feel like there are so many untold stories sitting inside people that are desperate for a voice, desperate just to be heard. I want to play my part in helping create that.
You're doing it. And
Thank
for that,
you.
we all applaud you. And you know, when you shared earlier about the explaining part, and it's just something that now just comes, is there's the being part for me, you being it.
Yeah.
That needs no explanation.
Yeah.
You continuously creating that space for it to happen.
Yes.
Need no explanation.
Yeah.
Because it's the gathering things, you're pulling the energy towards you, the magnet.
Yes.
So the explanation part is, yes, you know, it's there, but it's not, it's not integral to what's happening. Because you created this impulse. This thing is, it's like an electric current. It's happening.
Yes.
And it's not something that you can just switch on and off. It's just happening. It will push you through, and you continue, like you said, after that first one, no way. And then where we are today.
Yes.
And for me, it's even the impact part of it is something that you can never contain it into a few words, because you have no idea what impact it's going to have on other people's lives. One person's life might be affected.
Right.
And you change one person's life, you cannot measure that. You cannot value,
Exactly.
you cannot put value to that.
Exactly.
And a lady walks away from there, or a young girl, and they go and impact the world in a different way.
Correct.
It's part of a
Correct.
bigger scheme of things. It's a bigger
Totally.
way. It's a bigger way.
Totally. I often say to people, before each of the She Speaks gatherings, I have a very particular picture in my head. It's going to sound funny, but I picture this room full of these women. Majority of the women I do not know. I've never met them before. I'm not friends with them. So essentially a room full of strangers. I also don't know exactly what my speaker is going to share. I have underneath all of the stuff of the gathering and the storyteller and having these women in this room and creating this space, for me, I believe I need to have one of my bedrocks needs to be deep, deep, deep respect. So I respect my storyteller to honor the space for herself and for her audience. And so she doesn't need to give me a script that she's going to read or share. So there's a lot of mystery in the gathering. There's a lot of I don't knows. I don't know all of the energies and the elements that are going to be in that room. But I picture myself holding this giant watering can and literally just sprinkling water over all of these women in the room, including the storyteller. And, you know, when you said earlier, you have to trust life, I take it a step further and I say, you have to trust that life holds goodness for you. And that's what I believe happens, is that here's this watering happening of seeds that other people have planted, seeds that maybe have only been planted that morning when the speaker's sharing, seeds that may still not have found their fertile soil in those women's hearts yet. But there's a watering happening. And for me, that is such an act of trust, that there's something magical that happens. And I may never, ever know or hear or see what happens there. And that's not just okay for me, that's more than okay for me. I love that. I love that. I love, because I think for me, I feel as though I'm partnering with the universe in co-creating this beautiful tapestry. And what a delight to think that one day, somehow, some way, I'm going to be able to hold a perspective where I get to step outside of all of this and possibly maybe see the picture that we all got to make together. But even that's not the point, you know? The point is our co-creating. It gives us so much life and so much joy, and it's in our being, exactly as you said earlier, you know. So yeah, that's the picture that I carry, and I love that.
You know what, when you said earlier about your team, the team thing, I wanted to say it, but the whole universe wasn't even really saying it. It's very different way of looking at it, you know. And like you say, and I conclude myself as well, it's when we go to that space where we literally realize in our bodies, mind, heart, everywhere, that the universe is partnering with us. We just need to play our role. The universe will take care of the rest.
Yes.
We just need to show up
Exactly.
and do it.
Exactly.
That's it. Mlisska,
Exactly.
you know what?
Yeah.
We could speak for hours about this.
We could.
Crazy. I think we can maybe do a second follow-up as well. But in this moment, I would like to ask you, do you have a specific message for the ones who came more recently?
Maybe I think I would like to say how much I love your energy and your enthusiasm and your desire to affect change in the world as we know it today. It's necessary and it's beautiful, and I celebrate it and I'm grateful for it. I only would like to encourage you to try and hold hands with as many people as possible, as many generations as possible, to not feel as though the whole world is resting on your shoulders to affect change. That actually there are so many people desiring to be a part of change and a part of creating and a part of the new. And that in holding hands with one another, there's a value placed on every person's experience and every person's perspective. And they're all necessary, they're all valuable. I guess that's what I'd say.
Well, I receive it on behalf of every single young one, the ones who came more recently in this beautiful planet, in this moment. And I would like to invite those who's going to explore this with us later on the different platforms to engage with it twice, at least twice or more. I don't know about the others, but this latter part of our exploration today, where you're sharing about She Speaks and the way you're speaking from your heart and the passion that comes through, the loving nurturing that comes through, the holding space, the creating of the space. It's such a huge energy. It's just a huge energy that's been co-birthed here today with the universe in this way. So thank you for joining us, Mlisska. And I would like to invite everyone, we're going to share Mlisska's details at the back of our podcasts on the different platforms. And I don't think I have to tell you to reach out to her. She has an open door policy.
I do, you're
She's
right.
a people's person. So for whatever reason, whether it's for coaching or anything else that she does, we will share. Connect with Mlisska and explore the possibilities to co-create with the universe in the same way, in whatever might come up for you in your individual context and experience, or wherever you are in your life at this moment in time. And Mlisska, thank you.
Thank you.
There's such a beautiful energy that's outflowing now into this beautiful planet and the universe, which I'm so grateful for, and for you joining us today. And myself, so all the people on my planet, they're rejoicing literally in themselves. And yeah, there's no words actually. So thank you so much, Mlisska.
Thank you. It has been such an honor to be here with you today. Thank you for asking such broad questions. It always feels like exploring new territories, and I so appreciate being able to do that with you. Thank you, Hannelie.
Thank you, Mlisska. Thank you, everyone. We hope to see you soon again and receive this energy. when you engage in this. Not just to listening, but to receiving. There's something big happening here that's beyond us. That's the mystery part, which I love too. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Bye.